Okay, I just want to start this video off by addressing the reason in why I haven't uploaded in a while. Across the street from where I live, there has been some building work that goes on throughout the day, and the box of the internet which my house was wired to got destroyed when they was building, so we haven't had internet for a while. It's been about a month and I've only recently just got it back. So that's the reason why I couldn't upload through that month period. But currently going on now is some family issues and stuff gone on really personal in my personal life. So that's why I haven't really uploaded recently, but I should be back now. It won't be once every week or twice every week. It'll probably be once every 2 weeks, or just get rid of the schedule altogether and upload when I feel like it. So sit back and enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, today's video is going to be about stories, school stories to be more exact, stuff that happened in school to me and stuff that I did in school. You could say that I wasn't exactly the best behaved student, but I wasn't exactly the worst. I took a lesson called computer science, which is basically about coding and stuff, which like not ICT, where you do like PowerPoints and stuff and learn how to really use a computer. It's more of stuff internally with the computer and what it is like. So first lesson with a new teacher. The previous teacher left, so we had this new one, and the lesson was placed after lunch. So at lunch I had my dinner and went to the field with a couple of friends, and I completely filled my bag with grass. My school bag was just filled with grass because the field's previously been cut. So I went inside when the bell went with my bag full of grass and walked into the lesson as if normal with a new teacher. So I was in the lesson and I sat at the back of the class where the teacher couldn't exactly see me properly. I emptied the contents of my bag out onto the floor, leaving a big grass pile on the floor, and the teacher was still at the door greeting the students as they walked in. So I started picking up the grass in my hand and making balls of grass, and I started throwing it around the classroom. So there was grass going everywhere across this classroom, and the teacher turned round and we stopped throwing it as he turned round, and he was like, "Why is there all grass? Everybody out." So we all stood out in a line, and the teacher was like, "What went on here?" So we all just stood there quietly, just laughing to ourselves, and the head teacher started walking down the corridor. The head teacher got to the line of students, stood outside the door, and he was like, "What's going on here?" So I stood out of the line, didn't want anybody to get into trouble, and said this was all me, and he told me to shut up and get back into the line. So I asked him why and said I was the one who did it, and I was just admitting that to stop other people from getting into trouble, and he told me to get to the end of the corridor and he'll speak to me later. So I walked down to the end of this corridor and waited for the headmaster to come. So I was just stood there and he came strolling down corridor and he was like, "Do you know who you're speaking to?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm speaking to the head teacher." He's like, "Well, you obviously don't know who you're speaking to, because if you did you wouldn't speak to me with this disrespect." So I said to him, "It doesn't matter where you stand on the ladder of importance, everybody should be treated equally, and I treat everybody the same, with the same respect, and speak to them in the same way." He didn't exactly agree with this, so he was just moaning at me and saying, well, everybody should be treated differently, with people on a higher stature you should speak to them with more respect than people of the lower stature, and I was disagreeing with this because I believe everybody should be treated equally. So it was like, "Alright, you're going to be excluded." So I'm like, "Fine." He's like, "We're going to call your parents if you don't like listen." So like, "Go on then, call them." So he called parents and he was like, "Yeah, just don't come back for a couple of days, you've been excluded." And this was the first time I was excluded at the new school that I went to after leaving my previous school. The next part is at lunch. At lunch was just amazing. It was so fun with all the stuff that we did, because there was people building across from where the school field was, like right next door to it. So throughout the building time we wasn't allowed on the field because it was too dangerous, we thought. So we all just sat inside the cafeteria, and year 11s, which is what year I was in, got the upstairs diner, and in this upstairs diner there was obviously a balcony dropping down to the bottom floor where the stairs were. We could see over the front balcony where we threw stuff over and stuff, but this part's already taken place on the back. So I sat on the stairs with a couple of friends because the front balcony was too loud, and they all dared me to jump off the top balcony. So I, being me, jumped off this top balcony, hit the ground very wrong, and nearly broke my ankle. So what did I do? I went back upstairs, and a couple of days later I tried again. This time I was hanging over the balcony, and one of the top people at school, like vice principal sort of level, came strolling up the stairs as I was dangling from the balcony. So all the people I was with just left. They just, when they saw him coming, they just went into the main diner of upstairs, and I was just stood there dangling. He was like, "Can you climb back over?" So I pulled myself up and hopped over. He's like, "Come with me." And that day he threatened to PX me, which is permanently excluded if you don't know. And he's like, "If you was in any other school that I've been at, you would have been permanently excluded for that." So I said fine, and then I just had to sit with him for the rest of lunch. That balcony as well, once I was feeling a bit sick, so I kind of threw up over the balcony because I got dared to by a couple of people that I was sat with. Coming closer to the exams at the end of the year, there was a big stack of chairs on the upstairs balcony. About 20 chairs, maybe a bit more, a bit less, I can't really remember because I didn't count them, but it was from the floor to the roof, just stacked with chairs. And a couple of people told me, because they knew I was the idiot and I'd do it, to knock them over, and I was like, no, I'll easily get caught for that. And then the bell rang. The corridor got filled with the students going towards the lessons, so I decided to run up and jump and kick it, and I did, and all the chairs fell and smacked a couple of people in the back of the leg, knocking them all onto the floor as I darted into the crowd and hid Assassin's Creed style. Felt like Ezio Auditore, I did. So that's another story from up there, and relating kinda to him was cooking, because it was on the corridor, and cooking was another great lesson like computer science. I have a lot of stories from computer science and quite a few from cooking. They're not exactly the greatest from cooking, but one at times where we're cooking pasta and I wanted to see if it was ready, so I just put my hand in the pan and lobbed a piece of pasta across the room, see if it stuck to the wall, nearly smacking someone inside the head, and it did. Just splatter and hit the wall and just stick. And another thing, this isn't a story directly linked with, well, it's linked with me, but it's not directly about me, was cracking eggs, and this kid that I knew cracked an egg and a big chunk of blood dropped out of the egg, which was quite funny. And that same kid, when he was kneading dough on the side, decided to punch the dough, splitting his knuckle and bleeding in his bloody dough when we was making pizzas. Near where I lived there was this house, well not a house, but it was like this biggish building that looked like a house, and we didn't really know what it was, and me and a couple of my friends went there, and we were discussing what we thought it was in cooking, and one of the kids decided it was a porno mansion. So I was shouted, "It's not a porno mansion," and I looked up and the teacher was staring directly at me, and everybody around me just laughed and went quiet, and I got sent out of the lesson. I got sent out of that lesson a lot, mainly for arguing with teacher and just being stupid, really. And it was just a really fun lesson, to be honest. So my first fight at this new school, it was in English, and it was with this kid who he just fought anybody who just looked at him funny. He was a proper little scrawny fucker, and he got cheeky with so many people, and he got like bopped up so many times. And this was in English, and I was bored, and I started tapping the ruler on the table. And sometimes in English I could just write the date and title and just not write anything else the entire lesson, so it was kind of my relaxing I'm lazy lesson. So he was getting cheeky with me, and we were saying shit like, you're always acting hard but you never do anything, and just do some work this time. So I said, "Alright then, stand up mate." So he stood up, so I stood up, walked towards him and cracked him straight in jaw. He spun round, and then his arms started spinning, throwing windmills as if he were trying to do butterfly stroking, swimming, blowing wind at me. And then it got split up after I hit him a couple more times and threw him slightly at another kid who was trying to split it up, and then walked out of the lesson, which was great. It's not exactly the greatest fight in the world, but Another couple of fights I had, these were at the old school that I initially went to, where I threw a planner at a kid because he annoyed me, and then he was getting cheeky, so I went up and he went to kick me in the stomach, but I like grabbed his leg sort of, and then punched him, and then that got split up straight away because teachers were on corridor. And same kid as the last one, we're playing football and nobody liked him, so instead of going football I just booted him in the leg and he went face first into the ground, which were funny. So he got stood up and like, if you do that again I will have you. So I left it too close to the end of the game and I kicked him in the leg again and he fell again and he stood up and pushed me. So I turned round and put one step forward as if I was walking away, and then just turned round, punched him in the head, which knocked him back, and then I grabbed him in a headlock and started repeatedly punching him in the head, and that got split up by the teachers. Then he got taken off the pitch crying, he cried all the time, and then basically the teacher came and I just had to smile at him and everything was fine, which now I think about it is a bit creepy and a bit noncy, but that's how life is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video back, and I look forward to seeing you later on in the next video. So for now everybody, goodbye.